want to unpack as deep as you guys want to go the last three layers. I call them the steel layers of the LockLeft. You know, the core layers are the first three. You got to be good at these first three things before you can even go into the next ones. The support layers, they actually make us more effective and they can support growth. The steel layers are really ways that maybe you could steal additional possessions defensively. They're really the ones that are a little bit more crazy, but I truly, truly believe in them. And so we're going to go ahead and dive into these steel layers. Layer 8 is match and change, and many of you are probably even ahead of the game on this. But when we can effectively match up in transition, and we match up according to space, that gives us the freedom in the half court, once we lock them left, to then show different formations in the half court that will allow us to break offensive rhythm. So many of you do this already. You might go, man-to-man on a made shot or zone on a missed shot or vice versa. With the LockLeft being primarily a full court transition defense, with our focus being on that, we don't want to change up what we do in transition because we want to make sure that we're best at transition. What we want to change up then, once we're good at all the man-to-man principles of how we guard the ball, how do we guard the space next to the ball, how do we erase the space by the rim, how do we erase the space to the right of the ball? Well, then as we're closing off with our habits, then we can play any sort of a defense. And so match and change is saying, hey, we're going to go back to a 1-3-1, which I will say of all the different formations that I've used to mix up with the man-to-man, 1-3-1, I think causes teams a lot of problems. So I'll just sit in that for a moment. Most of you probably know how to teach a 1-3-1 pretty well. There's a couple of things that I do when I teach it that maybe you want to steal, maybe you want to implement, but we can talk about it. The main difference, I think, between my 1-3-1 and a classic 1-3-1 is our focus is on contesting passes, not trapping the ball. So we're not focused on necessarily getting a ton of trap pressure, but rather we want to steal passes out of the air. I find that those stealing passes leads to a greater advantage on the offensive end. So that being said, we're going to put our longest, most athletic player at the very top of this 1-3-1. And I would also encourage everyone to, as even Katie and I ran into this, if I can share about Emma. Yeah. So I was working with Katie's team, and gosh, personnel and deciding who are going to be your chasers is really huge. Katie has some really quick little guards, and she's like, those are probably my chasers. But then she also had this player named Emma that was longer, athletic, and stronger. And I was like, hey, strength on the drive, like being able to like body someone on that drive and bump them off their line is almost more valuable than just speed. Because remember, our chasers, we're not trying to necessarily pressure and turn the ball in the open court. We just want to make sure that we blind them and get them going left and make sure we body them out of the layup. So I actually prefer length and strength with some speed over just straight speed and small players. I actually personally don't like small players as chasers if you got anybody else that can do it. I like that small player more as a spacer to the right, actually playing on that deny. So that being said, if you have a chaser that's lengthier and still quite mobile, I would transition them right to the top of that 1-3-1 with our goal to just lock the ball to the left-hand side. We don't want to necessarily really attack the ball hard in traps. We do want to collapse towards the ball in our traps, but even more so, the top of the 1-3-1 and the wings of the 1-3-1, they're trying to actually guard space. I do something else different. I actually put our small, quick guard at the center of the 1-3-1, not at the bottom. So I know classic is to put that small guard at the bottom and have them run corner to corner. I don't. I put the guard right in the middle, and I put our eraser at the bottom because they know how to erase the rim. They don't have to change their habits, right? And that eraser is going to go block to block because we still want to put drivers to the rim on the left while playing passing lanes. So for example, if we're playing a 1-3-1 and let's say that the ball here is actually on the left wing, so we're going to have this chaser high, we're going to have this wing playing the passing lane to the corner, like space and left. We're not necessarily running at them and trapping. And our eraser is going to be sitting there at the rim. The person's job at the center of it, their job is to always guard the ball, always guard the ball. So they're basically a secondary chaser now, right? So I would probably, move someone to, I would have like a chaser 1 and 2 in this situation. If the ball's there, they're the one applying ball pressure. They're chasing the ball all the way around the floor. So this middle of the zone's actually the one that's speeding up the ball, but they're doing it in such a way to lock them left, while everybody else is playing passing lanes and our erasers at the rim. Now that's different. I think that would freak people out. When I've played it before, it's really freaked people out, and it just goes on steroids with LockLeft. But that's just a 1-3-1 scenario. You could do the same thing out of a 2-3, right? You would just still have someone that would chase back into a 2-3. If the ball's left, they go to the top of the 2-3 here. If the ball's right, they're on this side of the 2-3, right? You got your spacer right and left. You can do the same thing out of a 1-2-2. Your chaser's up at the top. I just love it out of a 1-3-1 because we're chasing them right down into someone that can come and trap it with the chase.